just going back a little bit, we toured South America a couple of years ago, and while we were there, we were faced with like these extremes of culture. You know, you got the extremely rich and the extremely poor, and it's like, you know, you're in the middle of that, thinking, what do we do with this? With touring around the world and with places like Asia opening up, and being to Rwanda and South Africa and places where we've seen extreme poverty at first hand. You know, things started to come into focus for us personally as a challenge. You know, what are we doing with what we're seeing?
Will you guide these weary feet? Every step that we take.
You kind of feel this hopelessness, you know, because there can be extreme poverty, but there can be hope. And a couple of places that we've been, you just have this sense of actually our existence is hopeless. All those experiences have made me uncomfortable. It unsettles everything in you.
We visited a rubbish tip, the city dump, and there were 3,000 families living on that dump, and I was there with my children. I felt at the time this is the most uncomfortable place that I've ever been in, and I really don't know what to do with the things and the emotions and thoughts that go through your mind at that time.
One minute being on a rubbish tip, the next minute being in a 5-star hotel, and trying to justify that and trying to make head or tail of that, and I think that's just been uncomfortable, because I can justify it, I can come up with some clever answers, but there's something in your soul that's just uncomfortable with both extremes.
And then coming home and moving house, and moving up as well, you know, that was uncomfortable for me. And at that time I was listening to a guy called Rob Bell do some talks, and he was talking about Solomon, and basically how, you know, Solomon forgot to tell the story, amassed this incredible great wealth, great wisdom, amazing palaces, but in the end of the day he was using slave labour to build these things. And the question is, what are we building? Are we building a kingdom of comfort or a kingdom of heaven? And really that is what the album came out of.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever made a record so far that has been so focused on its theme and lyrical content. But I specifically remember playing in India in January and coming back with all that tension and the smell of it in our nostrils, and the worries of it, and how we're going to respond. How can we call ourselves believers in God when we don't really know how to respond to these things, you know? And I remember Stu setting his guitar amps up in the studio, and just this sound coming out of it, and it was the sound of this stuff. That's all I can say. It was just the sound of confusion, anger, hopefulness, hopelessness. So I can only explain that's what it felt like. It was like, we need to capture this sound and put this into songs and somehow get this electricity on tape. And I think that is what Kingdom of Comfort is.
It feels to me like in the church is getting to grips again with that great calling it has to be something that exists not for the benefit of the people inside, but for the benefit of the people outside it.
And I think that also that's happened to us this year, is that we don't want to live in a kingdom of comfort as Delirious and our music and where we're playing, and kind of just carry on as we always have. And you have to move yourself into situations where it's just a little bit more testing, a little bit more dangerous, and that's what we need to inject back into Delirious. And I think you can hear that in the new songs, you can hear that in the record, that we're tipping it over the edge again. We're saying it needs to be this and not that, and so that's very exciting for us.
I think conceptually it's probably the strongest complete package we've ever produced as well. You know, even in terms of the art direction and stuff. The cover is shot with a shopping trolley with many different items, everything sprayed white, falling out onto the floor. Some of those things are of great value to us in the West, whereas something like a bottle of water is worthless. Yet to some kid in Africa, something like an iPod or an MP3 player is worthless to them, but a bottle of water is real life. That's the difference, you know. And so it's kind of asking these questions and these real struggles within this image of, have we made our gospel so comfortable we're indifferent about it. I think it's probably the most complete album we've ever come up with, you know, in terms of there's songs for the church to inspire them, and there's songs for people to put on their radio and be inspired by listening to as well.
It's a very truthful record. I think it's brave in some areas, but I think we can get braver in the future, and hopefully it could be a little piece in the jigsaw puzzle for people on their own personal discovery of how they can engage in changing the world, which is very exciting.